Swap the benches over. We come to oral questions to the Solicitor General. And I will start with David Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 1.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to start by taking the opportunity to wish you, your team and members across this House a very Merry Christmas. And with your permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer questions 1, 4 and 7 together. Every single victim of knife crime is one too many. And this Christmas there will be some of our constituents, including my own, who are facing the heartbreaking reality of a loved one who is no longer with them due to knife crime. That's why, as part of our plan for change, this government is 100% committed to tackling knife crime. Right.
Can I welcome you to the front bench? David Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Merry Christmas to you. I've had reports of people carrying machetes in Livingston Walk, an area in Grove Hill in Hemel, Hempstead, with the Decorum Local Crime Unit investigating one incident of alleged robbery at knife point. Knife crime is not our only issue in Hemel. We have the highest rate of antisocial behaviour in the county, and we are the most dangerous town in Hertfordshire. This is a direct result of Conservative governments taking 20,000 police off our streets nationwide, removing 60 pence out of every pound from local authorities' budgets as well, and failing to act on antisocial behaviour. What further steps is the Attorney General taking to ensure that violent thugs aren't allowed to run riot and are brought to justice?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right to raise this important matter. Knife-enabled robberies surged under the previous government, which is why the Home Secretary has made tackling these offences an urgent priority. Enforcement is key, and which is why we're putting police back on the beat with a named officer for every neighbourhood.
Athwal.
Number 5, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I commend the government's work by acting swiftly to ban ninja swords, seize zombie-style knives and crack down on illegal online sale of these weapons. That will reassure communities like mine in Ilford South, who sadly know all too well their deadly effects, with a number of heinous attacks this year, with teenagers losing their lives. What is the government doing to support victims and families of victims impacted by knife crime?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend makes a powerful point. Many of our constituents will have gone through the same pain as his. That is why we're taking strong action on knife crime, banning lethal weapons and working to ensure that dangerous blades do not end up in the wrong hands. This September, it became illegal to possess zombie-style knives and machetes, and we're bringing forward legislation to ban the ninja swords to which my honourable friend refers.
Sarah Coombes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Merry Christmas to you and the team. A couple of weeks ago, people in West Bromwich were met with the terrifying sight of young people wearing balaclavas running around the town centre in broad daylight wielding machetes. It was a shocking, dangerous incident that puts people off going into the town centre. Can the Minister set out what she's doing to work with other ministers to crack down on these zombie-style knives and ensure our town centres are safe?
Minister.
I'm very sorry to hear about this shocking incident in my honourable friend's constituency. She's absolutely right to raise it in this House. These kinds of weapons have absolutely no place on our streets. And that's why this government took quick action to make sure it's illegal to possess the machetes to which he refers, and I hope and expect that there will be timely prosecutions in this case.
Shastri-Hurst.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and may I congratulate the Solicitor General on taking up her position. As a former trauma surgeon, I have seen firsthand the devastating effect of knife and other serious violent crimes. And so I welcome the government's decision to make a specific commitment to halve knife crime within a decade. However, on the broader commitment to serious violent crime, no specifics have been provided to date. So can the Solicitor General tell the House, firstly, which crimes are to be included, and secondly, by which date this will be achieved?
I'm grateful I'm grateful to the honourable member for his question. He's absolutely right that knife crime is still too high. There were over 50,000 instances of knife crime in the year to June 2024. He's also right to highlight that this government is taking strong action to combat knife crime. We know that effective local policing is vital to tackle knife crime, and that's why we're putting 13,000 more police and PCSOs on our streets as part of this government's determination to make our streets safe. The Home Secretary has also commissioned a rapid review to understand how these weapons are sold online and delivered to under 18s, identifying gaps in legislation and the most effective ways to stop this.
Clive Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Last month, Thames Valley Police's Wokingham neighbourhood team attended Bow Hunt School in Arborfield, where they presented to young people the dangers of carrying knives. Early intervention is key to deter children from violence, and police officers play a crucial role in presenting this. What conversations has the Solicitor General had with the Home Office colleagues on the link between police officers' numbers and effective recording of the prevention of knife crime? And has the Solicitor General expressed concerns about the potential decrease in the number of police officers in Thames Valley to her colleagues?
Minister.
I'm grateful to the honourable member for his question. He's right to highlight these issues in this House. Key to prevention and early intervention is our programme of Youth Futures Hubs and prevention partnerships. So our Youth Futures Hubs will bring together services to help improve the way that young people can access the support that they need, and our prevention partnerships will proactively identify those young people most at risk and map youth service provision to ensure that there is a clear understanding of what support is available in each area.
Jim Shank.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I wish you, Mr Speaker, and all your team a thank you, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thank you for all your kindness for everyone in this House in the last year. Can I wish the Solicitor General all the best in the new role that she carries forward. I share honourable members' concerns about knife crime. It's truly horrific. The impact upon families is great. So can I ask a very specific question? I'll be happy to get an written answer to this. How many under 18s across the United Kingdom have been A, cautioned, B, charged and C, convicted of knife crime offences across the United Kingdom in the last 12 months? Thank you.
Good luck with that one.
I'm grateful to the honourable member for his question. He'll appreciate that I don't have those statistics at hand. I am, however, more than happy to write to him.
George Bentingler.
Question number 2, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, with your permission, I will answer questions 2 and 10 together. Reliable and effective local policing is the foundation for keeping all of our constituents safe, whether they live in a city, a town or in a rural area. That is why this government is putting more officers and PCSOs on the beat, and our plan for change will ensure every neighbourhood will have a named, contactable police officer in their community dealing with local issues.
Josh Fenton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I welcome my honourable friend to her place. Representing a rural constituency, I'm aware of the ongoing problem of agricultural vehicle thefts. In Calder Valley, vehicle crime counts for 1 out of every 20 crimes committed. The Equipment Theft Prevention Act 2023, passed by the now member for Mid Buckinghamshire as a private member's bill, restricts the sale of specified equipment. However, 18 months since it received royal assent, the SI needed for it to be enacted is yet to be placed. Will my honourable friend act where the previous government hasn't? Thank you.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we are committed to implementing the Equipment Theft Prevention Act, which aims to prevent the theft and resale of high-value equipment, particularly for use in an agricultural setting, as my honourable friend describes. He will know that the Policing Minister takes this matter very seriously and is working closely with the automotive industry to ensure the most robust responses possible to these crimes. I'm also happy to raise the matter that he raises with his local Chief Crown Prosecutor.
Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Farmers across Luton South and South Bedfordshire have frequently raised with me the issue of fly tipping on their land. I welcome the Government's commitment to implement stronger laws to prevent fly tipping. So will the Minister, working with colleagues across Government, also commit to review and update sentencing guidelines for courts to make prosecuting fly tippers more consistent and ensure more stringent fines are applied for the worst offenders?
Minister.
Fly tipping is a scourge, Mr. Speaker, both in urban and in rural areas, and that's why we're clamping down on it by forcing environmental vandals to clean up the mess that they created. We're taking a cross-government approach to this, Mr. Speaker, aligned with our Safer Streets mission. I'm sure my honourable friend will be reassured to know that working with ministerial colleagues, we're setting out a new strategy which will address antisocial behaviour and fly tipping and restore public confidence in policing.
Martin Briggs.
Number 3, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this Government is committed to tackling criminality of all types. This Government has set out our plan for change that includes putting 13,000 more police officers and PCSOs on the beat and bringing back neighbourhood policing. Next year, the CPS will receive an additional £49 million of funding to help recruit and train more prosecutors, enabling them to focus on securing justice in all cases, from minor offences right through to the most serious crimes.
Thank you, Honourable Lady, for the reply, and I appreciate the additional resources. But what my constituents, and I'm sure constituents up and down the country, want to see is robust, effective policing and prosecution of what is low-level crime in the great scheme of things, but can be a real curse, particularly on our housing estates. Can the Honourable Lady give an assurance to my constituents that there will be real, robust, positive action?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can give that assurance. He calls this kind of crime low level. I know from experiences in my constituency that these issues can affect daily life and can really blight communities. So yes, he has my assurance.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Ben McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish you and your team and everyone across the House a very Merry Christmas, and I welcome the Solicitor General to her place. I'm afraid it won't be a Merry Christmas for all of my constituents. Rural crime in North Cornwall is on the rise, from rural theft to increased drug trafficking. County lines drug gangs are grooming and recruiting children as young as 9 to traffic drugs, while elderly and vulnerable constituents are being cuckooed in their own homes by the gangs. What steps is the Solicitor General taking to work with the police to increase prosecutions for the ringleaders of these ruthless gangs that blight our communities and expose our young people to violence and crime?
Minister.
The honourable member is absolutely right to raise this important and pressing issue. We know that those who commit these crimes, including in our rural communities, are some of the most manipulative criminals in our society. The CPS provides early investigative advice to law enforcement to build strong cases and to ensure the robust prosecution of those involved in county lines. I'm determined, Mr. Speaker, that we continue to do everything we can to prevent young people from being drawn into crime and to stop this exploitation.
Sir John Hayes.
Number 5, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one of my priorities as Solicitor General and that of the Director of Public Prosecutions, who I met with earlier this week, is tackling the intolerable backlog in our courts and transforming the way that we support victims of crime. The Prime Minister has set out our plan for change, which will restore confidence in our criminal justice system. That's why we've worked with the CPS to make recent changes to its processes to improve communication with victims, strengthen the Victims' Right to Review scheme, lessen the rates of victim attrition and lessen delays.
Sir John.
You will know, Mr. Speaker, that Edmund Burke said justice is itself the great standing policy of civil society. Yet injustice reigns when victims feel that the cause of their plight is being neglected. Such was the case in Sutton Bridge, where a constituent of mine, a 6-year-old girl, suffered the dreadful event of indecent exposure. A man that was known in the community, reported by the father of the child, with CCTV footage available. When those kind of crimes are not investigated properly, People lose their faith in justice. So we must deal with those crimes in the interests of the very justice which Edmund Burke recommended.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very sorry to hear of the incident in the honourable member's constituency. That is indeed appalling. It's absolutely vital that this type of conduct is taken seriously. Clearly, policing is key to that, Mr. Speaker. We need more police officers and PCSOs, and that's why, as part of our plan for change, we've promised to put 13,000 more police officers and PCSOs back on the beat, with a named officer for every neighbourhood. We also, Mr. Speaker, need to improve the experiences of victims within our criminal justice system, including with better communication between victims and the CPS.
Chair of the Select Committee, Andy Slaughter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and Merry Christmas. Can I welcome my honourable friend to the front bench and congratulate the former Solicitor General on her promotion to Minister of State. It's difficult to keep up with the pace of this government sometimes. With the Crown Court backlog standing at over 73,000 and trials being listed for 2027, victims are waiting an unacceptably long time for justice, with the consequence that many no longer feel able to support the process. How is the Solicitor General working through the CPS to ensure that victims facing a 2 to 3 year long wait for trials stay the course?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful to the honourable member for his kind words, and indeed I'm looking forward to appearing before his committee on the 15th of January. He's absolutely right that we need to be doing much more to support victims, and he mentions the review of Crown Court of the Crown Courts. He will also know that the Lord Chancellor is taking steps to reduce the Crown Court's caseload by increasing funding for sitting days, and indeed, Mr. Speaker, we saw further sitting days announced yesterday, an extra 2,000, I believe.
Matthew Patrick.
Question number 6, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
This government has pledged to halve violence against women and girls within a decade as part of our plan for change, and securing prosecutions will be key to that. Our commitment to tackle violence against women and girls in this way is unprecedented, and it will require a wholesale change in how we think about and deal with these kinds of offences. It is only through a truly cross-government effort that this can be achieved, and as Solicitor General, I'll work with colleagues in the Ministry of Justice and the Home Office to ensure that it's a commitment that we deliver.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I welcome my honourable friend to her place? I know she's going to do a fantastic job. CPS guidance recognises that perpetrators of economic abuse harm their victim survivors, not just during that relationship, but long after it has finished. Could my honourable friend please set out when CPS guidance will be updated to reflect post-separation controlling and coercive behaviour being made a criminal offence? And could she also set out what training is offered to the CPS to recognise this abuse?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right, and I know this is an issue that he's been working on with surviving economic abuse. I also know it's an issue that he cares about very deeply. Domestic abuse can take many insidious forms, and we must do everything we can to ensure that we're equipped to spot it and to tackle it. The guidance he refers to was updated earlier this year and is under regular review. I can also confirm that the CPS will be taking part in a further knowledge-sharing event on economic abuse, which will be delivered for police and prosecutors as part of the Domestic Abuse Joint Justice Plan.
Josh Babberin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My family knows what domestic abuse looks like, but the law doesn't. That's because there is no specific offence of domestic abuse in the law, and that means that many abusers are convicted of things like common assault or ABH, which for victims and survivors do not reflect the full gravity of the offence, and also means they qualify for early release schemes. Women's Aid are backing my bill to create a dedicated set of domestic abuse aggravated offences in the law. Will the Minister meet with me to discuss my bill so that we can better respect and protect survivors?
Yeah. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend raises an important point, and that's why we're strengthening the law and the criminal justice system to improve prosecutions for violence against women and girls and to better support victims.
Shadow Minister Helen Grant, and welcome.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker, and wishing you and the team also a very happy Christmas indeed. I would like to congratulate the Honourable Lady, the new Solicitor General, on her position and, of course, welcome her to her seat. And I hope to work constructively with her and effectively with her on this challenging and very important part of government. As the Solicitor General knows, rape victims need action now, and they need it urgently, with many rape cases taking more than 2 years to come to trial. There has been much talk about ministers, about the opening of specialist fast-track rape courts, but disappointingly, very little detail to date. With this in mind, could the Honourable Lady please confirm, how will the government achieve this fast-tracking if they don't use all potential court sitting dates as requested by the Lady Chief Justice but refused by the Lord Chancellor?
Minister.
I'm grateful to the Shadow Solicitor General for her kind words. She brings an awful lot of experience and expertise to her role, and I too am looking forward to working constructively with her. She raises the issue of violence against women and girls, and indeed she refers specifically to Crown Court sitting days. Mr. Speaker, I said earlier I'm very pleased that there are an additional 2,000 Crown Court sitting days added by the Lord Chancellor yesterday. I think this is very, very important to allow these delays, the backlogs in our courts, to be sped up, fast-tracked, as she refers to.
Helen Grant.
I fully support the government's mission to halve violence against women and girls within the next decade. But will the Solicitor General please confirm how the government's progress will be measured to ensure delivery on its target, and what assessment has been made of the definition of violence against women and girls?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, timeliness is a key point, clearly, in relation to these issues. She's absolutely right to refer to our commitment to halve violence against women and girls within a decade, and we're going to be taking urgent action to build on the urgent action we've already taken. So, for example, Mr. Speaker, already in November, pilots of the new domestic abuse protection orders began in 3 police forces, enabling them to provide additional protection to victims. She will know also that the police and the CPS launched the Domestic Abuse Joint Justice Plan, and improvements in partnership working under the plan have already led to a modest increase in referrals of domestic abuse cases from the police to the CPS, setting a strong foundation for future improvements.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 8.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, freight crime poses significant challenges to the logistics and transport sectors, affecting businesses, communities and our economy. This government recognises the importance of addressing this issue, and the Crown Prosecution Service will always seek to prosecute serious offending when the relevant legal tests are met. Prosecutors can also apply for compensation to be paid for victims, and in appropriate cases can seek seizure of assets which represent the proceeds of crime.
Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to wish you and your team a very Merry Christmas, and thank you in particular for all your support over the last 6 months. I very much welcome my honourable friend to her position, and I know that she will be a powerful voice in government for justice. As Chair of the Freight and Logistics APPG, I've been listening to businesses across the country, including many in my constituency of North Warwickshire and Bedworth. They've told me that freight crime has reached unacceptable levels and is damaging their businesses and drivers' welfare. Yet organised gangs stealing goods from freight vehicles is classed as the same as someone breaking into a car and stealing a phone from the passenger seat. So I'd like to ask the Minister what she plans to do to ensure freight theft is prosecuted as the serious crime that it is.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for her question. I know that she has formidable knowledge and expertise in these matters, and she's raising them very effectively on behalf of her constituents, Mr. Speaker, in this House. We're clear that freight crime is a serious threat, and the Government is working closely with the police, the automotive industry and the National Vehicle Crime Intelligence Service to combat that threat. The CPS is of course alive to the prevalence of freight crime and brings together expertise to ensure the resilience, skills and flexibility to best respond to new and changing areas of organised crime like freight crime.
Mike Tapp.
Question number 9, please, sir.
Minister.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for his question, and I know how much work he's done in this area prior to his election to this place. Mr. Speaker, criminal gangs must not be allowed to undermine our border security by illegally bringing people into this country. That's why this government is committed to smashing the gangs. We've set up a new Border Security Command which will bring together law enforcement across the system and boost the Crown Prosecution Service's ability to deliver charging decisions swiftly in international organised crime cases.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Merry Christmas to you. Congratulations to my honourable friend on taking on this position. Now, having worked with the National Crime Agency in the past and in a counter-terror role, I've seen firsthand the effectiveness and the difference those counter-terror powers can make. Is the government working to maximise the effectiveness of the Border Security Command by using or adapting counter-terror style powers to take on the smuggling gangs and treat them like terrorists?
Minister.
My honourable friend makes a very important point. Quite simply, the previous government lost control of our borders, and that's why we need a much tougher approach, learning from the success of our world-leading counter-terror measures. Our Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill will create new, stronger powers for law enforcement agencies to tackle, investigate and prosecute organised crime and strengthen UK border security.
That completes questions. Let the front bench change over.